Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by Hims. You can get a trial month of Hims for just $5 at 4hims.com/RT.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Thursday!
That's right, it's a Thursday. Everyone knows that the Switch got off to a great start when it released 2 years ago.
That's right, kids. You may be playing Fortnite with all your Avengers toys, but no, we're talking about hard sales data. You're gonna learn something. Welcome to Ecom, we tricked you. So, according to some new sales numbers from Nintendo, that momentum has slowed down, as Bruce mentioned earlier, over the last year. And guess what? Wall Street, they ain't happy.
Uh-oh, the investors are not happy, which is weird because these latest numbers show that it's on track to being one of the best-selling consoles of all
I
time.
believe it just passed the N64, Lawrence.
Yeah, it's vaulted over that a long time ago.
Can we play the kid opening up the Nintendo 64 on Christmas? I think he's a porn
classic
star
memes.
now.
That's
Seriously?
I just
Despite
make
missing
guesses.
targets in 2018, Nintendo's predicting that it'll turn sales numbers around. Why is that? Are they finally shipping the sexy Toad graphic adventure we've been waiting decades for, Lawrence?
Hope so. He looks like a dick already. The story writes itself.
You're right, it's got a mushroom tip.
Yeah, crawl up inside. Yeah, we did some digging. We had some guesses about that, some theories. There's been a lot of people talking about new Switch hardware. That may not be so feasible based on the stuff we've dug out. Basically, Pokemon is a goddamn force of nature, and that's coming this year. But first, let's dig into all these numbers. Like Adam said, it's time to go to class, everybody. Figure out how the house that Mario built is doing these days without that sexy Toad graphic adventure.
Oh.
He is wearing pants, right?
Is it like a romper?
He's wearing pants, he wears like genie pants.
He's got the vest.
I think he has to take the whole thing off if he takes a
He
shit.
does have genie pants. That can hide a giant dick. But he is already... Can a dick have a dick?
Yes.
So Nintendo just released the newest batch of sales numbers for the Switch, and the good news is that they've sold almost 35 million units as of the end of March.
Really good, considering the Switch is just a little over 2 years old. Very impressive. Unbelievable.
Let's give it to Nintendo. Hey, way to stay rich.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. In fact, the Switch is just about where the PlayStation 4 was at this point in its lifespan.
Oh, wow. And PS4 has gone on to sell more than 91 million units. That's unbelievable, making it far and away the winner of this console generation.
Just to put that number in further context, PS4 is currently the 6th best-selling game console of all time.
Wow.
That puts it behind the PlayStation 2, the DS, Game Boy, PlayStation 1, and the Wii. And it's not done selling yet, so it's probably going to climb up that chart a little bit before it's fully done. But after Nintendo reported these sales, still took a hit somehow, because investors are never happy. Yeah, it's down more than 5% this morning. Well, investors are mad, they didn't make enough money.
This is Wall Street in a nutshell, though. Highest of highs, lowest of lows.
That's right.
Like, they gotta be riding high or jumping off a building, whatever. Either way, to get that adrenaline up because they're dead inside. So the question is, why is Wall Street upset? Shouldn't this be time to snort all sorts of ground up mushrooms off the Goomba's nutsack?
I mean, that's always time to do that. It's all about expectations versus reality. Last year, the Switch was selling like gangbusters. Nintendo executives were snorting mushrooms off of the dicks and made a very aggressive prediction. The Switch would sell 20 million units in the fiscal year that just wrapped up at the end of last month.
And guess what? That didn't happen.
That was eventually revised down to 17 million units, which is about how many Switches actually sold.
Right. But Wall Street was expecting 17.5 million sold, so that's part of why the stock is taking a beating today. You can't ever please those dudes seriously. I mean, I don't know, they're picking up a hooker right now and doing something with her. Or him.
It's a depression hooker, their comfort hooker.
Yeah.
Emotional support hooker?
Do they have an emotion?
Sorry, sex worker.
Meanwhile, Nintendo says it expects to ship 18 million Switches in the current fiscal year, but that it is also less than analysts expected. They were forecasting 18.5 million units sold this year. So they're saying they're going to sell 18 million, but they predicted 18.5.
Yeah.
They're saying that, and then the analysts are like, no, we think you'll do more. Nintendo's like, we're not. Yes, you will. And then when they don't, analysts are like, ah!
Is this good or bad for Nintendo, Lawrence?
I mean, they're still making ass loads of money. It's a weird game to have to please investors.
Yeah.
They didn't hit their own hardware projections. Their outlook is pretty conservative this year too, because essentially they don't want what just happened to happen again.
Right.
Which is surprising a bunch of investors, even though they tried to warn them, and then they get a sell-off, and then it's just a lot of fluctuations in their money flow. What makes it a little worse is that software sales were also below expectations, again, just barely. Nintendo sold 119 million units of software, below analyst projections of 121 million.
It's like 2 million. Come on!
I gotta pay off my yard!
But it's you know, it's a near miss on both counts, but a miss is a miss as far as money men are concerned.
True.
Money people. Money sex workers, my
you go,
bad.
yeah.
But there's a funky little twist here that I find very interesting. So despite calling these conservative estimates and Nintendo trying to play it safe, they're still projecting growth, which is not what consoles usually do. They usually drop off year over year unless something happens.
Right.
So what's going to happen is essentially the big question here. Is it new hardware? Is it software? We tend to think it's software. We'll get into that in a minute. But there are a lot of rumors about new hardware swirling around right now.
And like Lawrence is saying, the new hardware has been rumored for a while.
Yeah.
And just a few days ago, Bloomberg reported that a cheaper version of the Switch will be launched by the end of June.
What?
And the existing Switch will receive a modest upgrade this year.
So that's according to two people familiar with the matter, according to Bloomberg.
And while that's still rumor territory, analysts definitely believe that a cheaper Switch is coming, and they incorporated that into their forecast.
But Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa poured cold water all over that speculation. He told reporters, quote, "As a general rule, we're always working on new hardware and we will announce it when we are able to sell it. But we have no plans to announce that at this year's E3 in June."
That's an awfully polite way to say that Bloomberg is full of shit.
And that's the second part of why investors are selling off Nintendo stock, at least in the short term, because they wanted more than what Nintendo was actually showing.
It's really interesting to see how analysts receive news that they weren't expecting. Analyst Tomoichiro Kubota. God, that was right.
You nailed it.
Kubota, yeah.
You got to say it confidently, though. You guys on the internet, you can smell a lack of confidence.
You just put the.
You got it.
Fall face down into your comfort support
That's right.
sex worker. Analyst Tomoichiro Kubota told Bloomberg that, quote, "The market wanted a little more. Releasing new hardware sooner would have definitely helped this year's numbers, no shit, but it seems we'll have to wait a little longer for that, also no shit." Just listen to what they're saying and stop thinking about what you think is gonna happen. So it definitely seems like Nintendo's trying to be a little more restrained with its projections this year because of how they got burned with that 20 million forecast. At the time, people were still a little skeptical of it. It's shocking that they even got as close as they did. Longtime friend of the show, games consultant Dr. Sirkin Toto, I keep telling Brian to put that doctor in there and he doesn't do it, told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Nintendo's being extra cautious as it wouldn't want to miss its target again."
But investors were still surprised because the Switch seems to have a strong lineup of games this year.
Yeah, there's Pokemon Sword and Shield coming in 2019, along with a new Animal Crossing. Autumn.
Yeah.
Supposed to cheer for that.
I'm excited, man.
Talk to her through the camera.
She's super excited about it. I know she is.
Okay, I'm
Oh my
done.
gosh. And a new Luigi's Mansion game, plus the remake of Zelda Link's Awakening.
This actually looks dope AF.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Yoshi's Crafted World, which released on March 29th, sold more than 1.1 million copies in just 3 days.
It's definitely first-party games that are going to determine how many Switches are sold this year.
That's right, yeah. Nintendo consoles for the last few generations have been known as first-party machines, and while the Switch has a lot of third-party offerings, the first-party games are what's gonna be the most important.
Bullshit. Dragon's Dogma. Go buy it.
Who's the one guy saying, "I'm waiting for Dragon's Dogma to be portable"? But you already played it.
I want to play it again.
I've been playing it since 2011.
Nope,
Stop.
beat that game.
A few other notes for Nintendo. It looks like the 3DS is now dead. No new games were announced for it this year, and a lot of people have speculated that the rumored smaller, cheaper Switch is going to basically take its place. That makes total sense.
Convergence. We've been saying it for years, and it's finally
Total sense,
happening.
obviously.
And Nintendo is planning to release 2 mobile games this summer. That's Dr. Mario World and Mario Kart Tour.
Everyone expected Nintendo to slaughter in mobile, and they haven't really been doing it. It hasn't been the windfall people were expecting because they also said they don't want to over monetize their audience, which I appreciate. They don't want to ruin their brand.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Like, you think of King, you just think of Garbage Match 3.
That's right.
And Zynga is just dead. So here's the thing, though. Mario Kart is one of their biggest properties ever, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that. It's typically the #1 selling on every console. It is the best-selling game on the Switch right now, despite being a Wii U port. And investors are really looking forward to Mario Kart Mobile. There's speculation that it could eventually make $1 billion.
What?
Yeah.
Holy sh!
Imagine it. I mean, it makes sense. It's like, it's just left and right turn. It's very colorful and bright. It's family friendly. If you can play it online and there's like just a slight monetization hook of some kind.
But as of right now, Mario Kart Tour has been delayed already, and we haven't really even seen anything as much as a screenshot yet.
Yeah,
I
so-
assume it looks like Mario Kart.
Probably, but on a phone. Still, things are moving along, and Nintendo said it will do a closed beta test of that app, the Mario Kart app, on May 22nd.
That's soon. Moving back to the Switch, it is worth asking, will we get any new hardware at all this year? That would explain the lift in sales expectations after all.
Yeah, Nintendo has said they're not going to show any new hardware at E3, but they might not need to roll anything out in 2019 at all.
Because history has shown that a new Pokemon game can spike sales of a console all by itself.
What?
That's the true power of Pokemon. It's not
Pokemon!
No, not friendship. That bullshit. It's money. It's yen.
Record profits! I choose you! Lawrence, tell them about Pokemon X and Y.
This is really interesting. It came out in 2013, and not coincidentally, that same year, the 3DS saw its biggest sales ever. Nearly 14 million units, like 13.9. That's up from 2012, when they sold 13.5 million units, and Nintendo launched new hardware in that year. So 2012 had the 3DS XL. Didn't raise 3DS sales as much as Pokemon did the next year. Jeez. There's kind of an oddly similar situation here. Even though Nintendo didn't launch new hardware last year, they were expecting a little lift in hardware next year, which is when we're getting a new Pokemon. It's not hard to assume that people who have been waiting on the sidelines to buy a Switch or get in that ecosystem are probably waiting for a Pokemon game or something like it, maybe Animal Crossing. So yeah, this kind of means that Nintendo can probably sit on whatever new hardware they have because they don't need it yet.
Yes.
They can deliver growth in 2019 by releasing a new Pokemon, and then maybe 2020 is when they drop new hardware to keep numbers steady or even give them a little lift. Not to mention, this year we're getting software aside from Pokemon that can also lift the platform itself. Animal Crossing, as we said, and Super Mario Maker 2.
Oh.
So Nintendo's actually got a really good lineup coming up this year. It makes sense that they're expecting growth, and actually, when you think about it, calling it conservative makes a lot of sense.
So with all that said, if you were looking forward to buying a new Switch because you're a slut for Nintendo hardware like Lawrence is, you might be waiting longer than you thought.
Sorry, Lawrence.
That's okay. I'll just buy the Labo VR or whatever.
Yeah, it's still got a little bit of mushroom
Yeah,
dust on your lip.
it's really white. You're just gonna have to find someone else to waste your money on, Lawrence.
I've been trying so hard.
Want to go to Vegas?
What if they had a Mario slot machine? That'd be cool.
They must, right?
Just Konami shit.
What? They don't have a Mario slot machine? Buy that URL, marioslotmachine.com.
That URL's not taken. Yes. Oh, shit. That means we gotta park it, or it's gonna redirect to porn.
What is it, nintendoslut.com?
Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by Hims. Hims is a telemedicine service that offers a variety of services for people who may have a variety of need for those services. In particular, today we're talking about hair loss, or the prevention of hair loss. Essentially, Hims is a service that will pair you with a doctor online. You'll go through a screening procedure where they have you take photos of your hairline from various angles, and then if you need it, they'll prescribe to you finasteride, which helps prevent hair loss. I got one. Essentially, I noticed that kind of around the time I turned 35, I noticed my hairline started to thin out a little bit. Thought it might be paranoia, but compared it to some old photos, turns out no one is immune from age. So I signed up for the service, took a little questionnaire, had to send in photos. They said that some of my photos were too blurry, so I had to resubmit them. And then they prescribed me 1 milligram finasteride, which now comes in the mail every month. Now, I know that some people are very protective of their health and their relationship with their doctors. We'd never ask you to circumvent your doctor or go to some online service instead of doing what you think is the healthiest for you. The good news is that if you go to a doctor you trust and they give you this prescription, you can then just have it filled via Hims, and then you don't have to go to a pharmacy or anything like that to fill it. We have a special offer for you guys too. You can get a trial month of Hims for just $5 at 4hims.com/RT. Now you'll definitely want to see the website for full details and safety information, but you can get a $5 trial month of Hims at forhims.com/RT. Hims, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for helping me keep this where it belongs. This image is real. It's much, much smaller than the original and also has permanently connected Joy-Cons, but a lot of people are skeptical, right, Brian?
First of all, it looked really tiny to me. It looks like Andre the Giant holding a regular sized Switch. Like, it's really small. Plus, the image doesn't show the front of the device, just the rear. So it's possible somebody could have 3D printed a fake just to get the